Welcome, everyone, to Wizards and Warp Drives, the podcast where three grown-ass men get deeply nerdy about the things they love. My name is Nacho, and joining me this week is the usual suspects of Fred from How to RPG and the mighty glue stick himself, Mr. AJ Pickett.
How's it going?
I am awake. I have returned from the deep. Yeah, exactly.
Returning from the crypt. Oh, yeah, that's what it's like when Fred messages me at 3 something or other. What was it? 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning? Sends me a random message, and I send this gift back of a vampire's claw pushing back the sarcophagus lid. Who summons me? And I answered his question right.
I don't even know. Was it 4 a.m.? I don't think
something
it was
like that. Yeah.
Dude, are you sure it wasn't 4 p.m.?
No, it was definitely.
You don't know, AJ.
It was definitely morning.
AJ doesn't know how time works.
No, I don't. No, I'm in a floating bubble of my own. Yeah, ruled by an air conditioner and a light bulb.
Yeah, so we've been away. We haven't seen each other for a little while. We've all been busy doing life things.
Yeah.
But we're back, and we're going to talk about a 1965 TV show that I don't think anyone but maybe us gives a shit about.
Possibly. Hey, do we have any idea what episode this number the episode this is?
30 something. 30 something.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't find out till I edit, and then I check. Thunderbirds a go. Today we're going to dive into the
Not copyrighted.
The world of futuristic rescue missions, high-tech vehicles, and the incredible man behind it all, Gerry Anderson. Well, I am a little bit. So Thunderbirds debuted in 1965, featuring International Rescue, a secret organization using advanced vehicles to save lives. It became probably Gerry Anderson's, who created a lot of really good IP, his most iconic creation, with a unique sort of puppetry called Super Mario Nation. Am I saying that right? And it was inspired by real-life rescue stories, and it blended action, sci-fi, and suspense in a way that captivated audience and left a lasting legacy in television history.
Unassuming looking sort of a chap, isn't he, Gerry?
He looks like he belongs.
Looks like an accountant, you know?
Yeah.
Well, let's not forget Sylvia, because Sylvia Anderson, Gerry and Sylvia Anderson really were the brainchild behind this thing. You know,
True.
Without Sylvia, a lot of the characterization of the various characters and so forth would not have been as well done.
Absolutely. Lady Parker Bowles. Or not Parker Bowles.
Yeah.
Lady Penelope. What was her last name? Parker? No, Parker was the chauffeur.
Yeah, I don't know where you're going with this, dude. But
I'm just thinking the voice of Lady Penelope could be.
Was Parker eyebrows? I just remember his eyebrows.
Yeah.
No, so it was Lady Penelope Crichton Ward.
Oh, thank you.
A British agent who will kill you after smiling at you.
Yeah, probably poison your tea.
No, run you off the road.
Yeah. Fire a missile right up your ass.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, yeah.
All right, so Gerry Anderson, born in England, 1929, originally dreamed of working in live-action films, but due to budget constraints, he pushed towards puppetry-based productions.
Yeah, he was never going to be an action star.
He developed the Super Mario Nation, a groundbreaking technique that synchronized lip movements of his puppets to pre-record dialogue. So prior to the Thunderbirds, he did a show called The Adventures of Twizzle, which was his first puppet series, followed by Four Feather Falls, a Western series featured advanced puppetry, Supercar, 1961, which was kind of his first sci-fi, followed by Fireball XL5, a space adventure that only aired in the US, and then Stingray, 1964, which was
Stingray,
the first British TV series that was ever filmed in colour,
right,
making it a significant step forward in both technology and storytelling.
That explains why I had not heard of any of that other stuff.
No, Supercar is super creepy. I watched one episode of that, and the puppets, they just have their eyes don't move. It's just like deadpan.
Yeah.
It's like creepy.
Yeah.
Stingray. I thought Stingray was that was up there as well for me. That
was banger. Yeah.
Oh, we should talk about Stingray on its own own podcast. I'd be all for that because I loved Stingray too.
I love
the original Thunderbirds.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely did not love the live action movie they released back in 2004.
Yeah,
a financial flop, but also not just a financial flop, a giant piece of turd shit.
Yeah,
it really was. I don't know.
That's right. That's right. It was the shit of a turd.
It really was. I'm like, you do realize that even though you're making this thinking this is made for kids, the people who love Thunderbirds are now in their 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
And
you've
they do not appreciate
the
campy humor and the leaning into it being a movie designed for a 5-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And even 5-year-olds can deal with not having campy shit. And this was just a pile of turd dung.
I'm sure I realized that it existed, but I must have wiped it from my brain.
Yeah, it's so bad.
When I dived into it, I was like, holy shit, there's a Thunderbirds movie, and it's got Bill Paxton in it. I love Bill Paxton.
Not after this.
I watched the trailer, and I was like, yeah, I'm not watching that.
Yeah, has it got Ben Kingsley? Ben Kingsley?
Yeah, he's like, isn't he like deeply kryptonite?
Oh, he is, and because I agree, his Iron Man movie debut was also shit as well, and also that sci-fi movie where he played a New Zealand Maori was absolute shit.
Ender's Game.
Ender's Game.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, that was cringe.
That's a great book, but
book. Yeah, fuck, terrible movie. So
he's
Kryptonite.
What's that film where he's the London gangster, and he goes after Ray Winston?
That's probably the only thing he's like typecast for. Jesus, either that or mysterious ethnicity, possibly Egyptian bad guy.
He was Gandhi as well. Remember, he won an
Academy Award
for Gandhi.
Yeah, mysterious ethnicity.
Gandhi was good.
Yeah.
That was okay.
Anyway,
that's a good movie.
That was okay because he looks like Gandhi a little bit.
But I don't know what it is. It's just every time he seems to be in movies, and they get him to play these villains that are just they're like mustache twirling or just campy imbeciles, and it just doesn't work. Get him to play somebody who's ruthless and kills everybody, and then I might be able to live with him playing those characters.
It looked like a Power Rangers film when I watched the trailer. Like it was all about kids, kids trying to like the adults had left, so this new generation had to take over the Thunderbird vehicles or something. That was just the impression I got from the trailer. Yeah. It looked terrible.
Well, it's not really like that, but the reality is it was still garbage. The Thunderbirds, the original Thunderbirds TV show, following international rescue, that private organization with Jeff Tracy and his 5 sons.
Yes, let's talk about that.
That's the thing I love, and that's the thing I want to talk about. And
just one
even
thing,
the Weta Workshop release of Thunderbirds Are a Go with the CGI stuff, I've tried rewatching some of this stuff because I've got the discs, and it's pretty meh. It's not great.
They should stick to making fantasy movies and ray guns.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sci-fi props.
Just before we move on, I did watch an episode of Stingray, and I got massive goosebumps when I heard the closing credit song. I totally forgot Aquamarina. Do you remember that song?
Marina, Aquamarina.
Terrible song.
I love it.
Do I remember it? It's a backdrop of my life.
Yeah,
there's not too many words, so it's not hard to forget.
And it's got that dancing puppet.
Yeah. Floating. Just blow the hairdryer. Make it look pretty.
Okay, so Thunderbirds.
Dance for me, fish girl.
So apparently, Thunderbirds was inspired by a 1963 German mining disaster where Anderson envisioned a future where advanced technology could have instantly deployed life-saving rescues. So yeah, it was inspired by like a real life tragedy, and he was like, I guess if we had the technology,
we it was a Gene
them.
Roddenberry-esque idea of just pure philanthropy from a rich tycoon type Elon Musk character who had a bunch of sons. Elon Musk actually has like 8 sons, so they're about gamer age at the moment, which is why he was joking about buying out Hasbro. But in a few years' time, they'll be able to operate power suits and pilot, AI powered super jets and fucking bulletproof vehicles. Yeah. They'll have their own military force as well, and probably an orbital platform, and a Mars base, and a robot army.
No.
And they'll be named
Elon
like
Musk
Scorpio and fucking Zen 42, and he's basically raising the next generation of super fucking. They're probably all genetically engineered anyway.
So yeah. Elon Musk will go to Mars and take one of his small compact homes to live there, and all of his sons will pick a planet, and they'll or his children will live on
like $1 trillion and take off in his fucking personalized jet.
Okay. I think we got off track a little bit. Thunderbirds.
Not really. His life is a Thunderbirds movie, is what I'm saying.
Thunderbirds are Musk.
Thunderbird. Elon Musk edition. He's brainwashed the president.
They all look like puppets as well.
It sounds like a super atomic plot.
All right, so we've got Jeff Tracy, founder of International Rescue. His son Scott Tracy, pilot of Thunderbird 1. Virgil Tracy, pilot of Thunderbird 2. Alan Tracy, pilot of Thunderbird 3. Gordon Tracy, pilot of Thunderbird 4. John Tracy, space station monitor on Thunderbird 5. Lady Penelope and Parker, British agents. And the Hood, a villain obsessed with stealing Thunderbird tech.
What's her car? Is her car not a Thunderbird?
No.
It's FAB1.
FAB1.
It's Fab1. Are we talking about Lady Penelope first? Is that where we're leading?
We're talking about we're going sequentially.
Should we talk about the vehicles next?
We've first got to talk about Alan Tracy, so where he comes from.
No. You mean Jeff Tracy?
Oh, Jeff Tracy.
Start with Jeff Tracy, and then we'll go to the Thunderbirds and the pilots, because that's probably a more
Elon Musk we're starting with.
No. Jeff Tracy, the founder and leader of the International Rescue, right?
Yes.
Okay, you go.
Bruce Wayne.
Yeah,
right.
He's a former astronaut, right? He's the billionaire businessman who was a former astronaut who's now taken his funds and used his wealth to fund international rescue, which you think about it like it is probably the best thing that a billionaire could possibly do. But would a billionaire ever do this? No. Would they consider creating a vaccine that sterilizes as many people as possible? Absolutely fucking yes, but not this. So this was quite refreshing to see this. Even when I was young, I was like, oh wow, somebody would actually do that. No, it's
Richard
fiction.
Branson, Tony Stark, Elon Musk, fucking Jeff Bezos, Iron Man.
Yeah.
We actually have been programmed from a young age that billionaires are going to save us. Without even knowing
that they're going to take our soul. Jeff is great in that his sons are also on board with this, and one of his sons is a real life Mercury astronaut. That is, or astronauts. That's based off Scott. I believe it's Scott Carpenter and Virgil Grissom. And I think I can't remember. I think it's the guy who pilots Thunderbird 1 and 2 that are based off those characters. And they operate, he operates Tracy Island, which is sort of like a disguised tropical paradise.
Yeah, it's like the
high-tech base.
Yeah, it's like the X-Men compound with, the hangar underneath the tennis court sort of thing.
His Scott Tracy was apparently modelled after Sean Connery.
Oh, really?
I must ask you a question.
Yeah. So yeah, that's Jeff, and Jeff is very high strung because he always feels like it's important that he never go on holiday, and he's always there at work, apparently never sleeping at his desk.
Mm-hmm.
Like AJ.
Yeah. I'm asleep right now.
Do we have anything else for Jeff, or do we move on to Thunderbird 1?
No, we're good.
Yeah, so we've got the vehicle. So Thunderbird 1 is a high-speed rocket. Thunderbird 2 is heavy transport.
Why don't we break down Thunderbird 1, because the Thunderbirds themselves are so well connected to the people who pilot them. We should talk about Thunderbirds and the pilot as well. Do you know what I mean?
All right.
Thunderbird 1 has limited uses, really.
Yeah.
It's one of the more specialized machines, just for getting somewhere really quickly.
Yeah, it's the rapid response aircraft, right? It's the fastest of all of them. I think it's supposed to go up to reach a speed of 15,000 miles per hour is its fastest speed. So it's usually the first vehicle on site. And Scott Tracy's the pilot for this.
Yeah, and it has got like VTOL capabilities, so it can like, I think has it ever towed or winched something?
Yeah, but nothing particularly large. It has it doesn't have that kind of lifting capacity. It's just very, very fast.
Mm-hmm.
It featured variable wing configuration, so it allowed the wings to change position, extend out, and shift in the vertical and horizontal plane, I believe, allowing vertical takeoff, rapid acceleration, and maneuvering. And Scott often acted as the mission coordinator on the scene. Mm-hmm. He would assess the situation before the Thunderbirds would arrive, and he is also considered the most responsible of the Tracy brothers.
He's like the Cyclops of the team.
Yeah. He acts as Jeff's second in command. He's a very skilled pilot who occasionally flies Thunderbird 3 when needed as well, because he is an astronaut. And I believe that Jeff did at some point decide to give Scott Tracy a chance to run the Thunderbirds, but it was short-lived.
Yeah, definitely.
So he's Thor, the heir apparent. Well, not quite as reckless.
Yeah, it was a pretty standard looking rocket as well. Thunderbirds, I always used to get confused between 1 and 3. They look kind of similar to me as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
3 was red, wasn't it, from memory?
Yeah.
All right, Thunderbird 2, heavy transport craft, and it is piloted by Virgil.
My favorite.
Yep. It's the one you probably.
It's the Bumblebee. Should not fucking fly at all.
No.
But what a beautiful looking monstrosity.
It's the one that you think of, I think, when you think of the Thunderbirds. For me, anyway.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And Thunderbird 2, even though it looked like a giant green bumblebee, had those cool interchangeable pods. Each container can contain different vehicles, like the Mole, the Firefly, which was like a cannon firing bulldozer. It would contain the submarine, for underwater rescues, which was Thunderbird 4.
Yeah, of all the machines with toy potentials, that was the one that was the hot ticket, because you could configure it in so many different ways. I mean, think about how many different modules in the middle that you could sell kids, as packages. The merchandising dreams.
Yeah. Now, if I remember right, I don't remember them using anything more than containers 1 through to 5, but I do remember seeing that there were at least 6 or 7.
There was a conveyor belt with the numbers of the containers on there, and then they'd select the one and load it up like ooh, cool, it's that one.
Yeah. But there was, I also believe there is a container 6 and 7, but I don't think we ever got to see what 6 and 7 did.
I don't know.
Which is kind of a shame. Maybe if it had continued, we would have found out. Or maybe it was just to make sure that we thought that there was an endless supply of containers for any situation.
I like to think so. Yeah, that's certainly what I would do.
It has a really distinctive swept forward wing design, and its top speed was 5,000 miles per hour, so about 1/3 the speed of Thunderbird 1. And Virgil is both a skilled pilot and an accomplished artist and pianist, and he played the piano quite a lot. He handles most of International Rescue's engineering and mechanical operations. So he was really sort of vital to the whole thing. Like when Virgil is not around, like the whole thing just comes crashing down. Who's going to do that now?
Well, yeah. Brains could instruct somebody else how to do it, but Virgil was the can-do guy, and Brains was the designer and engineer and gave him all the instructions.
Yeah.
The space guy could probably handle a lot of the engineering too.
Thunderbird 3 is a deep space rocket, and that was piloted by Alan Tracy.
Yep.
It looked very similar to Thunderbird 1, but red.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did have struts, 3 struts, I believe, coming off the main rocket itself.
I believe those were the go faster bits.
Possibly. And like Alan Tracy, although the pilot, sometimes John Tracy would assist him in piloting Thunderbird 3, or be using Thunderbird 3 because that's how they got back and forth from the Earth to the space station, right?
It was the one that
I would like to pilot with a magic carpet ride blasting in my ears. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Possibly firing lasers.
It's the one that I remember you saw the interior of the most. Because it had that, didn't it have that sort of like leather seat and cool console and little monitor that you could see astronauts floating and stuff out? Yeah.
I'm choking on Thunderbird 3 right now as it happens. It was very tasty. So it's got this powerful atomic propulsion system for deep space travel. Apparently, I can't speak now.
It's getting irradiated.
Yeah. I've been irradiated.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one.
And he dies.
I will always be your friend.
Yeah, so the propulsion system was quite some distance from the pilot. This thing was, I think it was supposed to be over 300 feet high. This is like, holy Toledo.
Yeah.
It's not small. It's quite a lot bigger than the other Thunderbirds. And so I believe Alan is supposed to be an aspiring astronaut, but I'm like, hang on, how can he be an aspiring astronaut if he's flying around a spaceship anyway? So that doesn't make any sense. But he's also a race car driver, apparently. A huge fan of rock and roll.
Of course.
He's the youngest and most impulsive of the Tracy brothers. And
he's Buckaroo Bonetie.
Yeah, and he's probably the one who's the most taken with one of the other characters, Tintin, in the series. It always sort of suggests that Alan's got a romantic interest in Tintin, and Tintin seems somewhat, I wouldn't say oblivious, but very casual and like whatever.
It was the 60s, mate. All right, Thunderbirds 4. That was a submarine, mini submarine. Yeah,
a little yellow mini submarine.
Run by Gordon Tracy.
Yeah. The Space Cadet.
I don't remember this one coming up much.
Most likely to be eaten, Gordon Tracy.
Yeah, it wasn't deployed that often, but I would say that it was quite interesting when it was, because he was essentially on his own. It was a really powerful. It had a powerful sonar, so it could help detect things underwater, because they were often having to look for things rather than knowing exactly where it was. It had torpedoes, so if you wanted to blow shit up rather than save somebody, you could do that. And it had a mechanical arm on it. It had a, I think an underwater blowtorch of some kind, so he could cut through stuff, or cut through metal and wires and so forth. And Gordon was a former Olympian swimmer or champion in that area, and and he was really the perfect pilot for Thunderbird 4. The problem is that nobody could replace Gordon if you needed Thunderbird 4. So if he got sick, they were probably going to die, because he was just better at underwater diving than anybody else, and nobody else was really particularly good at that sort of thing. Fun-loving,
he was really underwater Tintin. Yeah, it's true.
He really was. Yeah.
Also, excellent toy potential in that submarine toy as well. I mean, your bathtub. That's your go-to boys' bathtub toy.
Yeah. Yeah. And Gordon. The thing about Gordon is he was probably the more mischievous.
I play with it now. I play with it right goddamn now in my sparkle.
Yeah, and in the bathtub, there's Thunderbird 4. Going down below, we're going to go and check out the sausage.
We're going to clean the filters.
Oh no!
Traveling between the balls. So
now with a compartment that you can put a sterilization chlorine cube in there, it will slowly dissolve over a series of. Yep.
Yeah. So
USB charge.
Gordon Tracy now doing a prostate exam.
Yes.
It's got a USB camera. I don't think that's legal, man.
Yeah, I believe Gordon Tracy was approached to do the movie The Fantastic Voyage and Inner Space, and turned it down, feeling that they were going to mess it all up.
Nah.
Yeah, trained in marine biology, so he was pretty expert. You know, he was an expert in the ocean and ocean rescue, so he was pretty vital for the whole team.
Those kids are a bunch of fucking overachievers, aren't they?
They are. Like, every one of them is like the best at everything. Like,
where's the stoner kid that just doesn't want to do it?
I wouldn't say marine biology is that hard. Well, there's some tough bits, but it's mostly just knowing maritime borders and regulations and all that sort of stuff. The biology bit the biology bit is by far the more interesting stuff.
Well, I believe he was an expert in that field as well, wasn't he?
And also calculating sonar and stuff like that. There's a lot of equipment involved.
All right. And Thunderbird 5, which was the home away from home, a giant orbital space station run by John Tracy.
Who had the strangest voice.
Ground control to Major John.
Yeah. So John rotated with Alan, because of course Alan piloted the spaceship, right? And so this is the space-based communication and monitoring.
Yeah.
It's basically
when you go into the space station, you got to have that background.
Yeah. So this was a massive geostationary space station used to monitor distress signals worldwide. It has the advanced computer system capable of intercepting emergency transmissions.
Yeah.
Of course, done in tape, because that's the technology of the day. Even though everything is high tech apart from the recording method. There's tape.
Yeah, that typewriter sound in the background.
I really wanted to see a day where suddenly the tape just goes out of control and it's just going all over the place, but it never happened.
Computers.
Yeah. John was an expert in astronomy and literature, spending most of his time alone on Thunderbird 5, and he was named after the astronaut John Glenn, apparently. Spends long periods alone in Thunderbird 5. And
also,
he's
Gurning Champion 2024.
Yeah,
safe to assume.
Yeah, he's
John
an introverted version of the brothers. Like, he's the most introverted. Yeah.
It's like, John, your arm.
Got more lube than P. Diddy up there.
Do not shine a UV light up there.
This is like, considering this is 1965, this is some out of it shit. Like futuristic thinking. Because this is before a lot of this. Yeah, this is.
Did you say 1985?
1965.
65.
Yeah.
So this is before computers and stuff. So all of the graphics and stuff that you see is all hand painted, and all the cells, like the transitions and stuff, are all overlays. And So they're gels that you painted onto, transparent sheets that you painted onto. So it's fantastic work and very precise photography. You have to get all the gels correct in the same positions and everything. Yeah, and they use lettering. The way that we say lettering sets is because they used to buy lettering that you would peel off and stick onto the gels. And those are the lettering sets that you get. They'd always run out of specific types of letters. And those, always had leftover Z's and sevens for some reason.
Do you know what I find amusing is if you look at the original TV series and the International Space Station, which is basically Thunderbird 5, right? Their space station. It says International Rescue on the inside. So when John's looking outside, it's correctly, it says International Rescue. But if you look from the other side, from the outside in, it would be back to front. So it's like, the question is, why did John really need to know that his space station was called International Rescue on the inside? Would it not be sensible to have it on the outside?
I guess because there'd be so few people looking at the outside of it that who gives a fuck? Just put it on the inside because that's where the cameras are going to be focused.
When you're flying past and you're looking at it from your rear view mirror, it would make sense.
Yeah, exactly. Like ambulance.
Yeah.
Ambulance. Oh, ambulance, right.
Just in case it's behind you. You need to move and you're like, what's that? Oh, okay.
You're so used to not being able to read. Like, huh? That's correct. Yeah. So there you go.
Okay, do we want... I haven't got much on the characters, but I know Fred has. So do you want to dive into...
I went through all the characters. Yeah.
I've got more on the making and the puppets, but should we dive into Lady Penelope?
Sure.
Well, brains first. Brains first.
Yes. Go for it. Do you want me to start?
Well, you go.
Sure.
Yeah.
Brains is our chief scientist and engineer, right? He's the genius behind the actual Thunderbirds vehicles and the technology. He's the one who has a stutter when he's nervous. But
thick-ass glasses.
And big-ass glasses,
Yeah.
Strangely, he still remains completely calm under pressure. Although there are times where I feel like he's maybe a little bit high-strung. And he uses the alias Hiram K. Hackenbacker, which this is his public working name. I have no idea where they decided to get
100% until some weird role-playing game.
You reckon?
Yeah.
He's on the spectrum for sure.
Yeah. He'd be in a Call of Cthulhu, like Writer's Club or something.
Yeah. Brain was one of the characters that always stood out the most and was one of my favorite characters out of all of them, for sure. I really like that character a lot.
Yeah.
He was kind of like the Q, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he was also the voice of reason.
Yeah. Also showed that people that, are intelligent are quite often quirky, weird, unconventional. In their presentation and personality, and their way of communicating. Can be difficult, So that's good. Shout out to the weirdos out there.
Okay, so there's then, if we've done with Brain, there's Kyrano. That's Jeff Butler's butler and assistant.
Oh yeah.
Now you probably have forgotten about this character because the character
he's like the guy with the hat that chops things in half. And
that's
James Bond.
Odd Job.
Yeah, Odd Job
from James Bond.
Yeah.
So he's originally Malaysian.
Yeah,
from Malaysia.
Silent Hagrid.
He's the highly loyal to International Rescue character, but unfortunately, he's got this strange. It didn't come up a lot, but it did come up. This psychic link with his evil half brother, the Hood, which we'll talk about shortly. And so occasionally the Hood would try to take him over, usually resulting in him having some sort of panic attack, a headache, and then passing out.
Poor bastard.
Yeah. And the Hood would then again be like, darn, I couldn't get my brother to do what I wanted to do again.
Yeah. Stop it with your voodoo bullshit. No.
Is that Ben Kingsley's character? Was he the Hood?
Yeah, something like that. I think he was inspired by the Hood.
Yeah. Anyway, So that was that character. Then we had Tintin Carano, who is the daughter of Carano, the butler, but she got her own first name like Tintin, which is confusing if you've ever read the comic book Tintin, so that doesn't help.
Mm-hmm.
So she was an engineer, a field agent. We very rarely saw her in the field, but she was a skilled pilot and a mechanic, and also skilled in electronics. She was almost never sent out on missions. I think I saw one or two where she did go off on missions. I actually think they did a better job when the Weta Workshop TV series was going near the end there. Tintin had she was like the female 007. She was awesome in that. But in the original, she was really nothing like that at all. Lady Penelope sort of picked up that role much more.
Yeah.
Ellen Tracy has a big crush on her, and there's a lot of subtle romance in the series around the two of them. And she often assisted Brains in his research and development for international rescue technology. So she was often home helping Brains out with stuff in the original TV series.
Playing tennis, etc.
Yeah. Or swimming in the pool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of swimming in the pool.
Yep. Just 60s things.
A lot of coconuts. A lot of coconuts.
Yeah. A lot of Dean Martin and cocktails.
Mm-hmm. A lot of suntan lotion going on.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I didn't use suntan lotion. It was like olive oil and vinegar or something, wasn't it?
Oh, it's just coconut water.
Yeah. Because coconut oil is really good for cooking things.
Yeah.
That's always been funny. Okay. There's Grandma Tracy. Do you guys remember Grandma Tracy? She didn't come up a lot, but she was there.
No.
So Grandma Tracy was the Tracy family cook, the only person in the Tracy Island who isn't part of the rescue team, and she had a tendency to be very forgetful, because that was what everybody assumed grandmas are like, and she tended to make things that either they really liked or they couldn't stand and despised and would avoid. They leaned heavily into that when they remade the TV series by Weta Workshop. She apparently would make meatloaf that nobody wanted to eat, including dogs. But I think in the original, she was, the joke was often that she had made some sort of meal, and there was a liquid tracer that you would have to consume, and people would consume the wrong tracer, and then they had to figure out who had consumed it because she'd left it in the fridge or on the bench or something like that, and then they're trying to figure out who's been drinking whose tracer, so it wasn't confusing for them. But anyway, she keeps the family ground. Okay. Yeah.
So she's a day drinker of some kind.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't know about to say that. I think it's just that she would leave stuff places, and the chappies would eat and drink the stuff that they weren't supposed to, and get themselves into trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to be on grandma's meds flying.
Like the opposite of get a fix the druid.
Yeah.
She'd be like, get your fuck the druid.
All right, this is AJ's crush. So Lady Penelope Crichton Ward, the British Aged International Rescue's London.
Oh, behave, Parker.
Yeah. She lives in an English mansion with the pink Rolls Royce called Fab 1, F-A-B.
She smoked as well, didn't she? I remember she was always smoking a cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
She's the skilled marksman, believe it or not.
Yep.
She's also a pilot. And she's a master of disguise, which always was amusing because it usually meant she just changed her hair color.
Yeah. Like a Barbie doll, she is a master of disguise.
Yeah.
She can wear a variety of different outfits as long as they are blonde and
or black or brunette.
Blonde and English.
Yeah. Most of her disguises consisted of sparkly sequin dresses that really distracted people so much that they probably wouldn't notice who she was.
Puts on a little hat. I'm a pilot.
Yeah.
Yes, Mum.
Yeah.
Was she inspired by anyone? Like, she
No, I
does feel a
don't.
bit
Oh,
like
she was. She was inspired by somebody.
Emma Peel, sort of 1965 Avengers type.
Kind of, yeah. I can see that.
Who was that? Diana Rigg? Is that her name?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did a lot of undercover intelligence, collecting. Did most of the protection for international rescue. Because the thing about this TV series, right, is that if you took a photo of their spaceships or their vehicles or their technology, you were marked for death. And then she would kick in with Parker, and like a ruthless killer, she would blow you up or shoot your car with rockets or machine guns and kill you. And usually it resulted in a smoking vehicle and nothing suggested after, or the smoking vehicle and a person inside covered in black charred smoke. With goofy music to suggest they were still alive, but they were seriously injured.
Like a Wile E. Coyote fucking situation going on.
Yeah.
Cursed you. Yeah.
So Lady Penelope, I believe, is basically Sylvia Anderson's baby. Like, she played that character. They tried to get somebody else to play the character, didn't work. So Sylvia wound up playing the character and put pretty much herself into the entire thing. So that's Sylvia.
She wasn't allowed to drive though, because obviously, woman in the 60s.
I don't think that she couldn't drive. I think the reality is that she just didn't want to drive. That's why she had Parker there. Yeah. It was all a pretense. She was supposed to be sort of, I don't know,
female James Bond type assassin.
She was kind of like royalty. I think she was sort of, related to the royal family or something like that. She had that ear. So Parker's an interesting character, right? Lady Penelope's chauffeur and he's the former safecracker. So he's got a naughty past. He's a former criminal who now works for international rescue.
Past.
Yeah. He speaks in this terrible Cockney accent, and he often provides the comic relief and does most of the driving and maintaining for the heavily armored Fab 1 Rolls Royce. But I always found it interesting that they leaned more into it later on outside of the original TV series. There was a little bit of this going on, but in the original TV series, he was the one who knew the underworld really well. And so if they needed to contact the underworld,
it looks slightly ethnic in some way.
Yeah.
I don't know. What
does that mean?
Those eyebrows.
Those eyebrows. What sort of ethnic are we talking about? Are we talking about like ethnic as in English?
Middle Eastern. He looks slightly Middle Eastern to me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, an interesting character. I think they made him more interesting in the Weta Workshop Thunderbirds Go, because he became a bit of a badass. He you thought he was going to be just this, poncy, useless chauffeur, and the next minute he's taken things down. A lot of the characters were sort of beefed up in terms of their capacity when they remade the TV series, but yeah, he still had that aspect. The Hood. We'll do the Hood next, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys remember about the Hood?
Not much.
It's just mysterious. I don't remember him. Yeah, he was always just in the background to me. Not much.
Yeah, so he's actually the main antagonist in Thunderbirds, whether you realize it or not. The problem is he had so many different disguises that you probably got confused as to who the hell was causing the trouble. It was always the Hood, almost always. And
I just remember he was bald.
Yeah. He's an international criminal.
Yeah.
He's related to Carano, his half brother, and there's a family conflict that is sort of suggested that's going on. That sort of grows. The Tracys learn more about it over time, but he's also got this weird hypnotic powers that allow him to disguise himself, but also to sort of blank people's minds or confuse them, or these are not the droids you're looking for, sort of thing going on. There's a lot of that going on here, and he's constantly trying to steal the Thunderbird secrets for profit, so that he can make himself really wealthy and powerful. So
he reminds me of Dr. Evil. To look at design.
For sure.
But yeah, he's kind of got that Eastern mysticism, hasn't he? Which was kind of relevant in the 60s. Like they kind of, all the Asian characters had this sort of mystic sort of ability to do hypnotism, and we didn't understand because we're Western. It was never really explained.
So I guess we're on to the special effects, because this is I don't think people realize that Thunderbirds, this TV series, is what really spearheaded a lot of the technology for the Star Wars movies, and a lot of science fiction. Was helped to be born by this TV series and what it was doing. Derek Mennings and his team were really on the cutting edge, whether the people realized it or not. So
Derek Mennings definitely said, Star Wars is definitely influenced by this, and James Bond as well.
A lot of it.
And Gerry Anderson would later go on to do other stuff as well. Captain Scarlet, after this, UFO, and Space 1999, which is a bit of a favourite of ours as well.
Yes,
safe to say.
I really wish they had done more UFO. I thought that series had a lot of potential. When you think about that game, XCOM, Enemy Unknown, XCOM,
I know the one. Yeah.
And then the popularity of X-Files and the SCP universe. Oh, fuck, we could do a podcast on SCP. We could do several podcasts on. We could do an entire podcast series on the SCP archives.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I think they were good in the day, but I think the problem is with all of the congressional hearings that are taking place. It's pretty obvious that what people thought were conspiracy theories are not the fact. They actually are happening. And
right.
So
how do you think that? How in any way do you think that detracts from the SCP files, Fred?
Well, because
by the way, some of this is real.
I guess
we predicted quite a lot of it.
I guess the reality is that, like, the concept of science fiction, what we thought was just science fiction, which was not real. Nowadays, even some of the craziest shit that we thought was not real is actually now real. You know what I mean? So that changes your sort of. I imagine it'll take a very long time for society to literally accept that the shit that they've been seeing in movies and TV series for years that just seemed outrageous, like conspiracy theories, and it's now actually fucking true.
This is the thing. We've learned that we're always one vote away from an alternate universe, a parallel dimension that we've shifted into. It's like, this doesn't feel like, how did this Donald Trump shit happen? How did it happen twice? We definitely are in a parallel universe. Maybe we're all got beards apart from you, Fred. So
yeah, well, I do, but it's on my bum.
Right, there you go. Yeah.
So, all right, so we better do the special effects. Sorry,
you
guys.
need the Thunderbirds submarine with a shaver attachment.
Yeah.
So we're all the bizarro-verse, evil versions of our proper selves from parallel dimensions where we made different life choices.
Men in Black as a documentary, people.
Yeah.
We call it Fred.
I'm telling you, brother. The dirt is a lie. The frogs are gay. They're putting them in our water.
Yeah. Instead of calling it Manscape, we'll call it Fredscape.
YouTube is AI. I'm telling you, it's being programmed by our dreams.
All right.
Sirius listening to us.
I'll try and get us back on topic. So, so this is very much an English production. Birmingham is pretty much the home of the Thunderbirds. With the puppets were designed by a John Blundell, who was born in Birmingham.
Sounds like a very Birmingham name.
And all the sound effects were done at Grosvenor Road Studios in Birmingham.
The Wonders of Birmingham. Yep.
These
How much have you been smoking, dude?
Sorry.
Is it two since we've been here. I saw a meme I was going to send AJ, and it said, "I'll be there ASAP," and then it had in brackets, "as stoned as possible."
Hey, at worst we could animate it.
So the puppets had prosthetic eyes and solenoid mouths to make them more lifelike. And they were 22 inches tall, so they're pretty big.
Yeah, that's what 56 centimeters in real distance.
Yeah.
Did you say solenoid mouths?
Yeah.
Wow, that's weird.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even their eyes were all
all digital.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Really, really advanced too for the time.
They could be sex dolls. Lady Penelope's dream isn't over yet. I think this is my love for Thunderbirds, because obviously we all love tabletop RPGs. It's the designs, the miniature. I love miniature. I just love the way they created the way it looked with all the buildings and stuff. It was all miniatures and yeah.
The miniatures were something. I was never hugely sold on the puppets, because the puppets were controlled with those really thin tungsten wires, with people standing on a catwalk who were the puppeteers that would do all the body movements, and they were all controlled manually. And what would happen is, because the puppets were so heavy and the tungsten was supposed to be strong, but it's so thin, so you wouldn't see the wires. Of course you did. Like, it's quite often you would see the wires in the TV show, because they didn't have the technology to get rid of the wires. So they just had to try to make them so thin that you wouldn't necessarily see them against the background. And the puppeteers were standing on a gantry above, and of course they would break. It would take them like half a day or a day to restring these things when they broke. I believe characters like Parker and Lady Penelope had multiple heads with different facial expressions, because they couldn't change the expressions. All they could do was make the mouths go open and close, and the eyes move back and forth and up and down a little bit. And that was really about it. So there wasn't an awful lot to maneuver in terms of puppet. And I believe that the Hood puppet was the worst of them. Everything, like the head, the strings, the whole thing, it just would break constantly. So they had lots of entertainment restringing and repairing those puppets. I feel like it might have been easier to use real people.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I think when they upgraded it all to HD, the strings became even more apparent as well. But
right.
Yeah, Lady Penelope also lost a leg because they used real baby crocodiles in one episode.
So do we want to talk a little bit about the miniature sets and vehicles? Because, like, I think that's one of the key things that really helped was the miniature sets and the vehicles.
And blowing them up was a big part of it. Blowing the shit out of everything was very cool.
Even though it's known for its goofy puppets and stuff, I think, for me, the miniatures, the vehicles, and the music are the three things that keep it endearing for me personally.
Yeah, the music is definitely a big plus. That rousing sort of orchestral march that is all through the thing. Very soaring transitions as well. It's like old airfare commercials and Pan Air.
I think it's Richard Harvey and Crispin Merrill did the music, who would go on to do like Bond films.
Oh yeah,
So
nice work. Nice work.
I mean, the design of the Thunderbirds, which were all miniatures, right? Thunderbird 2 is one that really stands out. Pretty much everybody's favorite. And then Thunderbird 4, which is the submarine, would be the next one. And then I would say the space station would be after that. They're all sort of really cutting edge, whereas, the Thunderbird 1 and Thunderbird 3, which are, their design is pretty standard, right? It's a rocket. And then the buildings, that all those buildings and landscapes that were all miniaturized, built in high detail. And that production team led by Derek Mennings must have spent so much time constructing these highly detailed models.
Yeah.
Trying to make them realistic, making them dirty. Apparently, one of the problems when they tried to redo this, because at some point the British, I don't know who it was, but somebody tried to remake the Thunderbird TV series from 1965 exactly the way it was made in the past, but in the present. And they discovered that they had to dirty things up, and it was actually quite difficult because things would look too good. And clearly Derek's team had got really good at making things look more real, using forced perspective often and placing, smaller models in the foreground to create depth. And they had water effects. Water and real world objects were often cleverly used. They used things like sugar and salt for snow. There was all sorts of, really distinctive things. But that was just the start, because then you get the explosions and destruction effects. And they really, really went all guns. Like, you would watch this and you're like, that looks real. That looks pretty realistic.
Yeah. Apparently, they reckon due to inflation, it would cost £1 million to produce an episode.
Wow.
Today. Yeah. Wow. How much they were spending.
All right.
I don't know how they got the budget back then.
There's a funny story about that. I believe that originally they made a sample. They tried to sell the idea to somebody to distribute, and the decision was made because it was essentially the length of a movie. And then there was talk about cutting it down for a TV series. And so what they did, I believe they released one of the first episodes as a movie. It's literally almost 2 hours long. I watched it. And it's a little bit slow, but it gets there eventually. And so that sort of set the bar as like, okay, you're making movie quality stuff as a TV series, so we will support that. I think if anything, it would have been smarter just to have released these things as just full-blown movies rather than as a TV series, and then later on just re-release them.
I only got 2 seasons, and then it was cut.
Yeah, it was cut after that.
Yeah.
But explosions and destruction. Like, did you guys read up on how they did that? The real pyrotechnics. They used a lot of gasoline explosions, little packets of gasoline for dramatic sort of crashes and so forth. Models that were made out of balsa wood so that they broke apart realistically when destroyed. Let's say trying to be realistic. Sometimes it did not look like that. Slow motion. They had to use a lot of slow motion filming. Shot at high frame rates to make everything look more larger and heavier. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of the times when they would do the explosions and the effects, it was a second and it was gone. So you would really see
very fine powders like caster sugar and stuff like that,
and
cornstarch.
Yeah. So it was really important.
Wood and bits of styrofoam for rocks.
Yep.
So I went to Weta Workshop for a tour, because in New Zealand you can go to the workshop and do a tour. And when I was there, they were building the sets for the new Thunderbirds show, and they were just building those out of scrap. Like the lady was like, we just have to make stuff out of, like, she had old circuit boards and little bits of, they were just gluing all that shit together, then just painting it. So it was quite interesting. But they were told they weren't allowed to get parts in for these sets. They were just use what we have, pretty much. Yeah,
right.
So did not have the budget of obviously the 1965 production.
Oh yeah, but it's Weta. They can do pretty amazing shit.
Yeah.
And I think too, like that slow motion filming, they had a lot of problems because I believe they ran their cameras on a track, and it wasn't a particularly good camera, and the track was a little bit uneven, so it would wobble sometimes. They would have a few problems. I think famously they have the rolling fireball effect that's achieved by igniting a flammable liquid in a small controlled explosion. When you go something explodes, and then you get the sort of like mushroom fireball coming out. They did a lot of that sort of stuff as well. So yeah, and blowing shit up in Thunderbirds was a key part of why people keep coming back, if you ask me.
Yes.
Yeah,
I agree.
That house they lived in, such a cool design. Reminds me a lot of, Iron Man 3 when they show. Is it Iron Man 3 where they blow his house up?
Yeah.
Almost looks like the same house.
But on an island. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, it's like a semicircular sort of deck pan, mushroom plan or stepped plan, like
I don't know what that
uphills, terraces.
Not architects. I don't know what that design is called, but it was very popular in the 60s for like sort of futuristic. I really like it. It was cool.
Yeah, sweeping open plan.
A lot of windows to clean.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry. They had somebody for cleaning windows.
Probably pretty good in a cyclone. By shout out to Australia.
Yeah.
No one ever used the pool.
True.
Well, you couldn't.
Well, Tintin probably walked around it a lot.
Yeah.
So film techniques and realism. Like the crew used low camera angles to make their models appear life-sized. They used real smoke and dust effects to hide imperfections in the miniatures, and also to make things look more realistic by just using things that you could just do, practically. To simulate vehicles moving at high speed, they used high-speed photography and then played it back at normal speed. And then some shots featured the actual real people's hands as close-ups. And I think they referred to it as being bigature or big miniature filming, where they didn't really use a miniature; they just use somebody's hands and just cut to a close up of that, so you could see them manipulating things. Because you couldn't do that with the puppets. The puppets' hands didn't do anything; they were fixed in place.
Hope they trademark that name, because that's jazz.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of water effects too. Like water effects in the Thunderbirds was huge. Like water in a miniature model is really tricky because water doesn't perform the way you need it to. It doesn't scale well, right? So real world scaling of water is hard. So they have to do a lot of large tanks. They would have large tanks of water set up, do slow motion filming to make the ocean scenes more convincing. They'd launch sequences for Thunderbird 4 using compressed air to create bubbles and waves.
Yeah, foaming water is a lot easier to scale than just flat water or wavy water.
So, yeah, clever uses of really simple processes to make it look like it's the real deal.
It was definitely a show ahead of its time. Like in terms of ideas, and in terms of like ideas of the story, and also ideas of just film techniques as well.
Some of the plots were a little bit like Scooby-Doo, but but generally speaking, you were there for the rescues, the cool specialized equipment that would come out of the containers that Thunderbird 2 would be carrying in, and and it's just the plots and stuff. Usually it was the disaster ones that I thought were more appealing than the ones that were the sabotage ones. Those sort of plots were a bit more boring. So it's just like, why?
It's amazing how much tension they would build for puppet show, basically.
Yeah.
Like they were far more tension than the movie they made and the follow-up TV series that was CGI. Like I rewatching them for the past 2 weeks. I'm like, I've been watching like one every night, and they're still got a bit of tension there, like which I miss that.
I tried to make my daughter watch one, and she described it as Paw Patrol with scary puppets.
Right.
Insulting.
It's because that when you look at the puppets at a distance and the screen, their eyes look black until you get up real close, and so they kind of look like eyeless,
cold, dead eyes, like a shark's eyes.
And you've got films now like Megan and whatnot where puppets come alive and kill people. So
that movie started off okay, and then it clearly got handed off to some idiot who just injected way too much comedy into it. Yeah. It would have been okay as a thriller, actually, I think.
So launch sequences, the iconic launch sequences. We got a lot of film time, or screen time for this. Like Thunderbird 1, moving on tracks on a track system, which is all model work, and then launching. We would see that every single episode. And then Thunderbird 2's pod being selected, and then it would physically be lowered down. Thunderbird 2 would be lowered down onto it, swapped to create different illusions of interchangeable pods. I mean, we would get that scene almost again and again and again. And then occasionally, if Thunderbird 3 was used, we'd get the launch sequence for that, filming it going vertically with slow motion cameras to make it look like it was blasting.
Yeah, you got to have the pilot flying, through the conveyor belt system and into the pilot seat.
Yeah, sliding down
from anywhere on Earth.
Yeah.
And then something that was kind of almost used in other films moving forward as well, like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, G.I. Joe. They all kind of had those like.
It's an anime, that transition sequence or a montage, as we call it. Montage to montage, get into ships, start up your engines and go.
Yeah.
So and then of course we would almost always have Thunderbird 5 in space being filmed, using a rotating background, so the stars look like they move to simulate an orbit. We've got a message. There's an emergency, and we get the Thunderbird scene.
John, stop jerking off.
It's time to come home.
Take your protein pills and put your helmet on.
Yeah.
So control to Major Tom.
I don't know about you, but the first couple of times I saw that, it was great. And then after about the third or fourth time, I was like, fuck off. Just get it done. Like, I know, just show me the thing blasting off and it's done. Quick scene, move me to the emergency. That's where I want to be. And it was a little bit hard to deal with the constant launching scenes, but they were trying to build up tension, and I guess they thought that was the best way to go about doing it. The problem is they were often made with the idea that they could stand alone. Like, each story itself really did not need to connect to the next one. There were very few part 1 and part 2s made. And if you took one of the episodes, they could literally be almost a movie in themselves or a story in themselves and not rely on anything else.
That's how TV used to be. I mean, it's episodic. It's only now in the days of streaming where people can... Because TV was only...
I blame X-Files.
Yeah.
I blame X-Files, because X-Files had the ability to be episodic, but also had connected stories over time as well. And they built up the ethos of the game, of the world behind those things.
Back in the day, if you didn't have an episodic program, you ran the risk of people dropping out, because if you missed an episode, then you're like, well, what's the fucking point? I've missed 1 or 2 episodes now. I'm never going to catch up. So you just lose interest. But
they had that while Lost was on, they had just before it this invasion of the pod people thing called Invasion, and I was watching that and I was really enjoying it. And then I saw this other series came out that had some of the actors from the Invasion show that I was watching. I was like, fuck, because I knew that it was going to get cancelled, because so they can't be working in 2 shows. No. Damn it! Somebody hasn't told me this is only going to go for 1 season. Bummer. But that's what happens when things are in with networks executives and stuff. Anything else to add to? Thunderbirds?
Let's talk about the sound, because you were mentioning the music, which is great. Like Barry Gray's iconic orchestral score added a lot of drama and excitement to every scene. Right? It was the music scores were really good. Like they really did a lot to move you away from I'm looking at miniatures and puppets.
That's something I think Gerry Anderson carried across to all his shows. All his shows had really great music.
The Thunderbirds have got a 1950s vibe to it. Dun 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 dun.
But what I don't know, a lot of people realize is that the sound of engines and explosions and mechanical sounds, or were often taken from real world sources, like a real jet engine or a motor car engine. They would take those sounds and they would just stick them in, which makes a lot of sense. Like that would be the most. I mean, why would you try to make that when you can just sample it? So that helped, and then the effects team behind Thunderbirds, like we said, influenced Star Wars, but also Doctor Who and Interstellar, and pretty much every sci-fi production, movie, TV series after it was released. Like that, it's affected all of them.
Probably also should give a mention to Team America, World Police.
Team America, fuck yeah,
Matt Damon. Yeah.
Obviously, if you're going to think of this puppet style and you've never seen Thunderbirds, it is Team America.
Yeah. Terrorize this.
One of the funny things is apparently a lot of modern CGI heavy productions study the Thunderbirds, the original Thunderbirds, for inspiration with their practical effects and their CGI effects, like to see how they would do things, which I find highly amusing. That would be something that you would wind up doing. Yeah.
All right, should we wrap it up?
Yeah.
I think Thunderbirds. It is still one of the greatest sci-fi series ever made. It's pioneering in both its effects, and Gerry Anderson, obviously, guy was ahead of his time. Not only with this show, but what he's contributed to just sci-fi in general. I think, So it's not. I mean, I don't think it's aged well. I think you need to watch it through a lens of nostalgia. It's definitely like I've tried to get my kids to watch it, and it is somewhat creepy. And it's long episodes as well. I think each episode was around 50 minutes, so it's not like it's a big ask.
Yep. It's a real TV show, like it, verging on being a movie length. So when movies were 90 minutes rather or 60 minutes long.
It's fucking hard to find a 90-minute movie these days, isn't it?
No. So. I don't know. For me, I really liked the Thunderbirds, the original one, not the movie and not the remake. Frankly, even though the remake had probably better visuals than, I suppose you could say, than the older Thunderbirds, but I don't want them to remake Thunderbirds again as a TV series or a movie, because I just don't think it'll be any good. Like there's been 2 swings and misses, and it seems clear to me that
it's a roper.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a roper. If somebody grabs it, they're probably going to eat it rather than put it down nicely and actually do something good with it. I think Thunderbirds works best when it takes the characters and the story seriously, rather than. I think it's better to avoid that campy humor. It never worked for me when I was a kid when I was watching it. I'm like, and I just don't think. I think kids can watch stuff, and you don't have to have campy humor for them to understand that it's it's not real. I don't know why they lean into this, because campy humor just means shitty humor. It means,
I don't know.
Batman worse than dad humor, dad jokes galore, but worse.
Batman worked for me as a kid, and that's campy as fuck.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I found some of it a little bit much. But anyway, I always wanted Thunderbirds to use real people rather than puppets, but keep the miniatures of the Thunderbirds and the ships and the locations. That was always my dream, is that they would do that, but they never did, of course. And Thunderbirds is like watching firefighters and jets, spaceships and submarines, if that were a thing. And that's what always sort of appealed to me the most, because what better thing to have a action around where you don't have to shoot somebody or kill somebody, although that did happen on Thunderbirds. But what better thing than to have firefighters basically as the key focus, and that's essentially what they were.
or billionaires that use their money for good.
That is a fictional story that I don't believe will ever come true. Even when the world realizes that aliens have been around for a while and the government is up to all sorts of naughty stuff that they don't acknowledge. So that's probably one that's never going to happen.
Yeah. All right. Anything from you, AJ, before we wrap it up?
I had lots of thoughts, but they just left my head entirely. Oh, I was thinking that it's surprising we don't have a cartoon of the Thunderbirds. I think it would be quite a good cartoon material. Like I said, a lot of toy potential, and you could definitely do something animated and D&D related, considering that there's dwarven forged terrain and stuff like that. Like if I had $1 million and my sculpting skills, I was just holding up Piercer and Roper here before, little mock-ups of the Underdark Detective team. I would definitely do something animated like that, where I make the characters and move them around and do sort of montages of images with narration and sound effects and background music. Because you can do the background music and stuff for free now using AI, because copyright infringement on YouTube has always been a big problem, and AI is kind of godsend there because they don't snap you for it anymore. You can avoid that entirely. So that's very, very good for us creatives. Frees us up a lot, and that removes a big headache and thorn in our side for a long time.
All right. Cool.
Anyway, Thunderbirds are go and have gone.
Yeah, Thunderbirds are going to bed.
Time for bed, kiddies.
All right. Thanks, everyone. That's good night from me.
Good night from him.
And this is good night from the Thunderbirds that have gone and probably will not be returning.
Yeah, definitely. Keep your eye on the skies, people.
Smooth.
All right. Thank you.